traders, this is Blake Morrow. You are listening to the Morning Edge webinar. I want to welcome you all. And let's get started with this analysis, this thing we call analysis in the morning. Our morning cup of analysis. All right, so let's start with the euro dollar. So the euro, kind of like yesterday, it's the same. You know, you got to ask yourself from a risk reward perspective. How aggressive do you want to be on the short side here on the euro? I sold a little euro at 63 this morning, but it's hard for me to be very aggressive. Matter of fact, my position's only 1/3 size my normal position because I feel that we're in a range. I mean, if you look at the range for the week, this is it. I mean, this is it, right? What you see. At the same time, what we've done is we've held through some pretty major support. Now, I'll give you guys, especially those of you that are coming a little bit late, here's my basic argument. I have a really, really difficult time being short the dollar while gold's breaking lower. Gold is broken right now. And until gold can really get back above 1130, I have to be on the long side of the dollar. It's more of a prerequisite. I don't know if it's a prerequisite, but I just can't physically short the dollar while gold is breaking down. Okay, now that doesn't mean that the dollar can't continue to pull back. It might, and matter of fact, if you look at this, the potential right here. The potential of the euro dollar to get back to 109, I think is doable. I don't think it's going to get up there, but if it should get up to 109, I'm probably will short a little bit more euro, I would think. But if you see this previous support here, okay, yeah, previous support, resistance, probably going to be, good resistance on the way back up. And that comes in at, let's just write 109.10 because I think the high here is 109.06. The low here is 109.15. Call it somewhere in between, about 109.10. That would, to me, that would be logical because that would squeeze the euro enough to trip some stops above 109 and then back down again. Okay, so 109.10 would be a resistance. Now, yesterday we went as high as 108.70, right? 108.70, I think. 69, depends on where you're at, what broker you had, and then we just went as high as 74, which might have been high enough just to trip some stops and then, roll back over too. So we may never even get up there. I'm just thinking if we do get up there, I think that's going to be a great opportunity to be on the short side. Now remember, we don't have any data today either. There's no economic data coming out of the U.S. or in Canada, so we're just kind of stuck watching paint dry. Or stuck watching the equity markets, and hopefully the equity markets move a little bit and give us some volatility in the currency market. All right, now support is at 108.20. Now we did move as low as 108.10 overnight. That would be right here. I have 108.07 is the low, and I guess that was probably an Asian trade. In European trades, 108.11. Okay, so I'll have to write down just 108.10, but that'll be support. And it's key support too, 1.0810. All right, and the bias, still range bound. Now, we have to get a solid break below those lows to not just a little probe like you seen here, not just a little probe like you saw here in your early European trade. You want a sustained break below 108 really to shift this to bearish, because and even if we do break down, remember there's a trend line support here. Let me remove that. I'm going to make this a little bit. This trend line support comes through 108 or 107.50 roughly. Okay. And that should be pretty key. But at the same time, you can go, well, there's a double top, double. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that really starts to develop here. Double top, breakdown, extension. Um, you can look at it this way too. So if the euro breaks lower, I mean, could that move take us to 102? Possibly. Okay. But we have to there's a lot of support here. There's, 108.10. Okay. Then there's 107.50. Below 107.50, I think really exposes a lot of downside. And I don't know if the dollar's ready to do that move yet. Yet summer. The only thing that the dollar really has going for it right now is gold, in my opinion. I mean, obviously the argument of divergent central banks, we can go on that argument and just hang our hat on it and say, well, the dollar is going to move higher because of divergent central bank monetary policy, and continue to do that. That's great, but I think other than that, really the only thing the dollar's got going for it right now is gold, right? And gold breaking lower, but that might be enough to push the dollar over the edge. We'll see. Um, but we're not thinking about that for right now. Okay, for right now, it's really all about 108.10. $107.50. Okay, let's go into the cable. So the pound's a little weaker today. I'm not too sure why. Um, the euro pound's approaching 70 pence, and I don't have an order to sell. But if we get to 70, I probably will sell some euro pound. But you can see we're probing some pretty key support, and I'm going to get rid of all these little circles because they're now starting to, I mean, well, I guess we should leave them there, huh? I mean, once again, here we are, you know, probing all this, you know, the support. So, hold on. So the 38% retracement comes in at 155.40. Okay. We've been as low as 155.28. So we keep probing down there, and these wicks are long. You can see, but they're not the end result of a long wick here in the cable on an hourly chart, or 4 hour in this case, is not leading us to a huge squeeze either. It's just, leading to a little bit of a bounce. Um, so this support is probably going to be pretty key today. 155.29, which will be 155.30. That's going to be pretty key support because, again, these probes down here, all they're doing is we're probing long wick and then we just bounce. Now, the bounces aren't, like I said, they're not resulting to big moves either, which I'm sure bulls are a little frustrated because if you know, you get this wick, you go, oh man, here we go, we're going to get this bounce, false breakdown, pound bounces to 156. Then you get this false breakdown again. How many people are trading along the cable right now thinking, oh man, here we go, we're going to get a bounce back to 56, 156.50. It's just not resulting in big moves. So, hmm. I would think that right now, just 156, any move up to 156, I think you're probably going to see some selling. And we're just going to mark up 156.05 for now. We're in a range. It's tight, but we're still in a range nonetheless. Okay, let's go over to the Swissy. So the Swissy's pulled back to the 96 cent level today. It's just, inverse to the euro. So as the euro is bouncing, the Swissy has pulled back. Now the Swissy is pulling back towards. We're hoping that we'll pull back to the trendline support yesterday. Well, guess what? So any dip to 95.80. Now remember, breaking higher. Okay. So a dip to 95.80 would probably be a nice place to be on the long side. Resistance comes in at 96.45. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the yen. So the dollar yen, just not real moving anywhere, but I would venture to guess that we're kind of stuck right now. As long as equities aren't moving anywhere, dollar yen's probably not going to move anywhere. Um, the high comes in at 124.47, so I'm just going to write down 120. Well, actually, we probably just should mark down that the 786 that comes in at 124.67. What's the high here? 24.73, so 124.70. Okay, we got two levels of resistance, I would think, for the dollar yen. 124.50, 124.70. I am still short the dollar yen, by the way. And it's definitely range bound. And support comes in at 124. 123, wait, 123.70, I'm sorry. High here, 123.70, high here, 123.72, so 123.70. Okay, and in a range. All right, let's take a look at the Canadian. So the dollar Canadian. Now, Paulie had pointed out that crude oil is bouncing somewhat, and it is. I mean, we're holding above 50. I think we dropped below 50 very briefly yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check something here. Crude oil, 50.08 today, but yesterday, looks like euro's at its highs. CL, pound zero. I mean, we went as low as 49.85, but you can see crude is just kind of just it's holding. Here's the 618 retracement. Now, this was really key. I tweeted the chart out yesterday at the Lunch Money webinar. Here, let's pull that out. Okay. Okay, good. See this here? Okay. So you have the 618 retracement of the entire move up from March lows to May highs. 618 comes in at 49.90. That's holding crude right now. Okay. So as long as that holds crude, for those of you that trade crude, I mean, this is an easy trade. Okay. In my opinion, and I don't trade crude oil, but if you're going to trade crude, you buy crude right now with a stop below like 49.70. If you believe that crude oil prices are going higher, and you think that they're going to bounce back into the mid 50s, and but this would be your entry, like sometime today, if your bias is long. Like I personally think crude's going back to the mid 40s, personally. So I wouldn't take that trade if I traded crude, but I don't trade crude. Okay, I just use it for analysis purposes with the Canadian. But if you believe that crude's going higher, this is your place to enter. Okay, because if it breaks through 49.70, we're probably heading into the mid 40s pretty quick, probably down to the mid to low 40s. Okay, but as long as crude oil holds above that 618, that should keep the Canadian in check from breaking out through 130, 130, 130, 65. Okay, because here's the dollar Canadian. Oh, euro new highs. Because here's the dollar Canadian. There's a resistance. The resistance is 130.65. Okay, that is key. Now we've been as high as what we hit yesterday, 130.23. Okay, so 130.25. Here, I'm going to delete this really quick. There. Okay. So 130.25, 130.65. Those are resistance levels for the Canadian. It is bullish. Dips have been very shallow. Anybody who's short the dollar Canadian is just now hoping for a dip down to 29.15 or 129. Any dip down there, they're going to be buying because they're probably worried out of their pants that this thing's just going to rip higher. So 129 is support. I'll tell you what, if we get to 129, I'm probably going to buy some more dollar Canadian. All right, let's take a look at the Kiwi. Now the Kiwi dollar, we have hit the 66.20, which is also the 50% retracement. We went as high as 66.17. The last 4 hours we went as high as 66.17, and the euro's pretty well bid, so it's keeping the Kiwi up. But watch this trend line right here. So in other words, if we break back below 66 cents, I think that opens up some downside in the Kiwi. Resistance is at 66.20 for right now. That is previous support, which is acting as current resistance. Okay. Now, what is the spike high here? See, I mean, this is just walking a very fine line right now because that support right here, if we break back below 66 cents, that's gonna it's gonna open up some downside here with the Kiwi. But I don't think we should focus on that support today. We should probably focus down on this support today. Right through here. Basically 66.50 or 65.50. Sorry. Remember, we're in a very bearish trend. It's trying to turn. It's trying, but that upper trend line comes in at 66, probably about 66.60 by the time we get up there. Okay, if we can get up there, which we might see a little bit of dollar weakness that pushes the Kiwi through this resistance. All right, let's take a look at the Aussie. So the Aussie dollar is locked in this down channel. We drew this out yesterday, which means that if we can get a rally back up towards 74, well, at this point, it'll probably be about 74.35. It's probably not a bad place to be on the short side of the Aussie if we can get it somewhere up here, 74.35. And then support, well, it's like 73.50 is pretty good support for now. And then below that would be 73.25. And we are still on a very bearish trend. Okay. All right. When I come back, we're going to do the dollar index, the Swedish krona, the Norwegian krona, the peso, which hit 16 yesterday. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. All right, traders, this is Blake Morrow. You were listening to the Morning Edge webinar. So we got to do the dollar index really quick. Let's go ahead and get that done as we finish up here. Okay, so here's the dollar index. Should find some support down here. This is a daily chart, so you have to think about roughly down here around 94, 97, 60. Okay, we should be supported. Even on minor pullbacks here. That comes in at 97, yeah, 97.60, if you will. We had a high here at 97.77. I would even give it as low as like 97.60. And then resistance 98.20. And we're still in a big range. We're still in a big range environment. And let's take a look really quick at some of these. I want to take a look at the peso because the peso was hitting lows earlier. Whoops. Here's the peso. What the peso is doing. Let me get rid of this really fast. Constitute a double bottom there, which points us a lot higher than where we're currently at. For those of you guys that trade the peso, this might not be a bad place to be on the long side. Hold on one second. I mean, again, if you trade the peso, this might not be a bad place to be long. If you want to be long the peso, I mean, you don't have to risk a whole lot. Maybe below 1594. Resistance comes in at 1604. It's definitely a bullish trend. But I mean, like I said, it's good support here for those of you just looking for longs, maybe back up towards 16 pesos right up there. $16, I mean that. Yeah, I mean that 16 peso area should offer some resistance. Anywhere between anything above 16, but limited risk or manageable risk, I should always say. So here's the U.S. dollar Norwegian krone. Oh my God, that's huge. Look at that. What a big resistance level. We have to pay attention to this because, you know, right now you're looking at the euro and you're going, well, the euro's, well off of its support, down at 108.20. Well, how about if gold starts dumping and the dollar starts ripping? This Norwegian krona, I'd venture to guess that not a lot of people think that we could break above here. So above 827, this thing's breaking out. I mean, we're at the upper end of our range. I mean, you think about that. If the euro starts breaking down, we're probably going to new trend highs, like new all-time highs or multi-year highs. Um, 819 should offer support right now. Let's take a look at the Swedish krona. You look at the Swedish krona, we're still holding above 860. We had this head and shoulder pattern bounce from there as expected yesterday. We got to 865. Now we're back down to 860. You know, I'd venture to guess that if we make it above 870, 867, we're breaking this channel. So in other words, if we break above here, things gone. 860 is supporting. 859 actually. For you guys that can trade this one, 8.590 and but what's most important is 8.67 key resistance. This is also key resistance too. Yep. And this is more of a range. We're not we're not up at our highs like the Norwegian krona. We're in a range, but we're looking to turn bullish here in the U.S. dollar Swedish krona. It's looking to have a bullish breakout. Remember, this is a big cup and handle pattern too. Just in case you guys forgot, it's a big right. Okay, let me take your questions. Oof, got a lot of questions. Not a lot actually. I thought we had more.